It's a compliment where a compliment is deserved. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining Ramon and I for my first um, segment of my new show, The Queen's Chamber, where we focus on each show a specific queen out of the tarot. And I was um, inspired to do this while Shannon and I were watching something on ancient Egypt. They were talking about the pyramid and some new things they're finding inside the Great Pyramid. And when they mentioned the king and queen's chamber, it was just like a light bulb went off in my head. And I said, "Oh!" And I knew the first person to shoot this off to, because he's a creative, like me, it was Ramon. And so I was, Ramon, what do you think? The Queen's Chamber, Goofy, Luffy, what?
I
And he
like
was like,
that.
I love it. So thank you for Ramon
I
for
love it.
kickstarting this with me. I appreciate that. And for some people who don't know, may not know who you are, like, hello, Coyote Rosenbaum. David is here. Um, Jackie, thank you, my dear, for being here. And yes, please hit the like and the thanks and all that good stuff. And I'll let you share whatever you would like to share, Ramon, about yourself and your
Thank you
channel before we
for
get going.
having me.
Oh, thank you for joining
Yeah,
me.
thank you for having me here. So, this is a very interesting show, and for people,
I hope
who are
it's so.
watching it, what Heather intends to do is just explore symbology and meanings of the different queens in the tarot suit, and with different guests. And in my case, is I'm the first one who's gonna start,
You're the guinea pig.
and I'm very happy.
I
Yes.
won it.
Yeah, definitely. And it's very interesting exploring the queen because, a lot of people think that there is a certain rank within, the court cards,
Yeah.
specifically with the king and the queen. They associate the king possibly being the higher one, but, not always a queen is under a king. It's there's countries like England, for example, until recently that the queen was the monarch. You know, and in animal populations, the queen ants. She's the highest power in the colony, and the queen is I feel it's a very complex character because she embodies emotions, but emotions related to the different suits. And what we're gonna do in the show is talk about, and what I want to talk about in my case,
Mm-hmm.
it's about the figure of the Queen of Wands. I'll talk a little bit about its equivalent in playing cards, in other divination systems, in tarot in general, and I want to go specifically into the RWS because
Yes.
there's a series
Russell.
of symbology and things that the artist who created it, Pamela Coleman Smith, incorporated based on real life things. And then, we can explore how the impact of those groundbreaking elements that she added impacted modern decks that we have nowadays. So we're gonna see examples of the Queen of Wands, the Queen of Clubs, also in different decks, and take it from there.
Yes, I told Ramon one of the things I absolutely love is that he brings the whole, because of his love of divination and it being like his passion, you know, um, all these like little other elements that I may not be aware of, or that a lot of us may not be aware of, or we might just have a little bit of on our periphery. Whereas Ramon really has delved deep and explored a lot of this, and that's what, with each of my guests, they bring their own expertise. They bring their own insight, their own experience, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to make this fun. I want to make this
Hmm.
very insightful. And because I know for me, speaking personally, I get stressed out with court cards. I've gotten so much better, but there is so many layers. And like what Ramon was saying with the RWS, Pamela put things in there that other divinations didn't, and more modern decks. they, it's wonderful that they have her legacy to jump off to explore, because when she created these cards, it was at a different time when things were different in society, in religious and spiritual circles. And now that we're in the 21st century, there's so much that has changed in our society, that wasn't, open, or wasn't allowed to be open or explored back then. So she really did start a wonderful legacy for all of us, to take what inspired her, and that we can take as deck creators, and be able to expand on that. And just really quickly, our chat has been jumping a bit. I want to say again, hello, Jackie's Crystal Moon. She was first here saying hello, so thank you for being here, my mod. Coyote Rosenbaum, welcome. Thank you for being here. Hello, David. Plucky Heroine is here. I love that name, Plucky Heroine. I love it. And hello, Dancing Soul Sister. Welcome back. It was nice seeing you yesterday, too, in chat. And Jackie's shared, I love the Queen of Wands. She's powerful. I've heard her referred to as the witch of the deck and the entrepreneur of the deck. So again, another aspect of how we learn, develop, read, and understand. And for me, I relate to the Queen of Wands because of her creativity, her fiery nature. And she's got the little black kitty, or the panther. Of course, everyone knows I have a black kitty, and I'm, black jaguar, panther, and stuff. So it was a no-brainer. Fatima is here. Hello, Fatima. Let's see. Gypsy Girl is here. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, let's see here. StreamYard, if I go too fast, there we go. It won't let me highlight properly. And then there's Tony. Hey, Tony. Or Antoinette. I love that name, Antoinette. Tarot and Jewelry. Please check out her channel as well. If anybody has channels, please feel free to share. Jackie can go ahead. Oh, my goodness. Don't worry about it. No apologies, my dear. You are fine. Let's see. Did we miss anybody else? I know we haven't, so we're all caught up at the moment. So I will give it over to Ramon to talk about the RWS, because you're more in-depth knowledge of the history of the RWS.
Just on the character in general. So we're gonna talk about the Queen of Wands, and in tarot, the suit of wands is typically associated with themes of creativity, action, ambition, and inspiration. And it represents the element of fire, symbolizing energy, enthusiasm, and passion. And why is that? Some of the key aspects are, for example, number one, creativity and inspiration. Wands often represent the creative process of new ideas and inspiration, and they can indicate a time of growth and innovation. Number two, action and ambition. And this suit is linked with taking action, pursuing goals, and the drive to achieve. And it reflects ambition, determination, and initiative. Number three, passion and energy. Wands are tied to passion, vitality, and often point to enthusiasm and that zest of life. They can also signify a burst of energy or a call to embrace one's inner fire. For personal development, wands can indicate personal growth, self discovery, and the pursuit of one's purpose and true desires. And in the spiritual sense, number five, as a symbol of the element of fire, wands can also represent spiritual awareness, enlightenment, and the journey towards, that greater self and understanding of your inner wisdom. Now, in the case of the topic that we're going to talk today, it's the Queen of Wands, and the Queen of Wands in tarot nowadays, because her meaning has changed over the years. I'm going to refer to the image, and here we see a woman sitting on her throne with lions on the back, and she's wearing a golden outfit. And on the background, we see a desert, often depicted on the Wands cards. And we can see the same landscape on the Page of Wands right here. We see the sand dunes on the background, as well as here. And the Knight of Wands. it's the same landscape for all three. And deserts, they're associated with spiritual awakening or places where you find
Mm-hmm.
inspiration. And the rocks near her throne, they can indicate toughness, resilience, and independence. Now, what's very particular with the court cards is that they in itself represent an element within the suit. For example, pages are always associated with the element of earth. So in the case of the page of wands, it's the earth aspect of the suit of the element of fire.
That's where I get confused.
Knights,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Just give me 1 second. Is my camera blurry?
No, you're good.
Okay, it might be my internet connection. So knights, they represent the element of fire. So they are the fire element of the fire, the suit of the suit of wands, which is fire. So it's fire on fire. So that's like the most fiery character. Now, in the case of the Queen of Wands, she represents the water element of the element of fire. So she's the water aspect of fire, or the emotional aspect of that sense of will, of determination. And the king represents air. So he's the air element of the suit of wands, which is fire. So there's like this variety of elements within the each one of the suits,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And each one on one of the suits, there's like the most intense of the whole core cards. Like for example, in the case of cups, the queen of cups, she's water and water, so she's like the most emotional of
Mm-hmm.
all the all the cards of all the core cards. The knight of wands, fire and fire. The page of pentacles, he's earth on earth, so he's like the most down to earth. And the king, who represents air, the king of swords, he's like the most abstract and intellectual of all the core cards.
Mm-hmm.
Look, it doesn't matter how long you've been practicing tarot, you've been learning tarot. Every time you face a core card is like, what do I do with you? Because it can represent different things. It can represent a person, it can represent an energy, it can represent a situation. So I acknowledge that core cards are,
I agree,
are
Gypsy Girl. Just like the
intimidating.
confusion
you
was
know
lessening. Yeah. After a
yeah,
while,
they're
you get used
intimidating.
to it.
Does
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. um but in the case of the queen, the queen, she's the mother of her element, and it's emotion, sensitivity, and she has attributes of love, understanding, and sympathy, and her abilities to form and create and give that warmth. In this case, the queen of wands. She's a fiery character, and she provides pride, passion, inspiration, independence, and her charisma, shows through her expressiveness. In the Queen of Wands, the element water and fire are combined. So it's a very interesting
That's me.
combination because they can cancel one another. So there's always that balance that has to be in
Or
this
it could cause
character.
steam. Like, things can get really steamy.
Yes, and yeah,
Steam
and what
empowers
other
engines too.
character? Yeah, what other character has the same combination? Fire and water. It's the Knight of Cups,
Cups.
but it's reverse. The Knight of Cups is it's the fire element of water. She's the water element of fire. It sounds similar, but they're totally different energies.
Yep.
Therefore in this case it's the combination of the emotional and passions, right? So she can symbolize situations when you have to follow your passions and ambitions when you're full of energy. And if you have to face any decisions on your way, you're going to listen to your heart more than your head, and you will also listen to your intuition to lead you to success. And within this card, specifically in the RWS, there's a lot of different elements and symbology that you don't find on previous tarot decks. Now, what's the equivalent of the Queen of Wands in other decks or other systems? She is the equivalent of the Queen of Clubs. This one right here. Right? So some people use playing cards for divination
Mm-hmm.
purposes, and this is something that we've seen, for example, in Lenormand, right? Now, in Lenormand, she is the Queen of Clubs represents the snake.
Oh,
And this
mm.
one, yeah,
Me and snakes again.
yeah,
Oh, jeez. I can't
yeah,
get away from the snakes. Oh.
uh, yeah, snakes. It doesn't really have to do anything related with her personality. It's that
Girl.
Madame Lenormand, she has assigned meanings and symbols to a lot of the playing cards to be able to use them for divination purposes. Now, is there anything you want to say before I continue?
Just really quick, we had some people coming in, and Allison just said that can everybody? I have to have a fan on. It's warm in my room. Are you having? Are you being disrupted by the sound of a motor? My fan.
No, I hear a motor on the background, but it doesn't interrupt me really.
So I hope it doesn't interrupt anybody or disrupt. I could try to turn my fan down a notch. But we did have a few people join us. Let's see, Chris is here. And Chris, I thought you were talking to me, but okay. Hey, Heather. Good to see you, Chris. How are you doing, my friend? Let's see. And yes, Jake. When my confusion, when you start adding the dignitaries, that's where I'm like baby steps, little bit at a time. But I'm starting to grasp and understand that better. And Chris also said she creates a safe space for us to learn to wield that element, develop our skills. She's the wildest character in the tarot, I feel. And I agree, I love that. And she's more tempered than the page would be. And Joyful Journey has joined us. And for me, before Ramon goes on, I just, I have this wonderful book. People may remember earlier this year I did a deck casual with Gerald, and this book by Tina Gaughan. She's created her own deck through Labyrinthos, and what she does is she really just really breaks down the cards, the uprights, the reversed. I don't necessarily read reverse really because there's so much information personally for a upright, for just the cards being upright, that I'll kind of like study the other cards around it. But I'm sure eventually the reversal, start filtering in. But with the Queen of Wands, the one word that really does stand out is the passion, the charisma, because you're trying to remember all these keywords, associated with her. And because these cards are so multi-layered, I mean, when you get to the court, you're adding like a human element, so there's another whole other layer to add to it. And so certain words I've noticed in amongst my decks, it is that charisma, it is that like nowadays the social butterfly, but the creativity, the creative potential. And what I
Heather,
love,
I'm
yes.
sorry. I'm sorry. Before I continue, I'm hearing wind against the microphone. So
Okay, I'm
to
going to
listen
have to
to you,
shut my.
it's getting difficult.
Okay. Um, well,
Just
go
sweat
ahead,
it
take it.
out.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'll catch up.
Okay. Yeah. So it's just me. Um. So like I was mentioning, the Queen of Wands is represented in different ways in different systems previous to the RWS. So I mentioned Lenormand. That's the Petit Jew. As you know, the Lenormand system, there's two versions of it. There's Le Petit Jew, which is the one we currently use nowadays. There's also Le Grand Jew, which was another divination system, much more complex, really difficult, and it's actually disappearing because it's so difficult to understand with so much symbology that it's disappearing. So in that case, the equivalent of in Le Grand Jew, it's it's this card, and there is a meaning for each one of the symbology in this card and a general meaning. And in this case, it says that a dark-haired woman will come into your life to give you pleasure. It's
Ooh,
just a reflection. you know, I don't want to think it's carnal pleasure. It could be, pleasure
mm-hmm.
in other different things, conversation, intellectual stimulation. But that original meaning reflects the vision of the world and us at the time. And one interesting thing is that the meaning of the Queen of Wands has changed over time, starting from the time of Arthur Waite, till today. Now we see it very differently. And I just I just want to share some interesting things about the Queen of Wands from the RWS. So the when Waite commissioned this image to be created by Pamela Coleman Smith, they were basing the depiction on a text that the Golden Dawn had describing each one of the cards. And originally, it was she was thought of as a woman with red long hair, with a leopard, and with her wand. Right now, Pamela Coleman Smith made her own interpretation of the card and added elements which were not part of the original plan and which were later on have an impact on future tarot decks. Now, Pamela Coleman Smith had a friend. Let me put my glasses on. Had a friend, and her name was Ellen Terry, and she was an actress. Ellen Terry had a daughter named Edith Craig, and Pamela Coleman Smith used Ellen Terry for the depiction of the card. Now, different sources say either Ellen Terry or Edith Craig. This is
Oh
Ellen
no.
Terry.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, she's the person who is believed to be depicted on this card.
Oh yeah, I can see it.
You can see the resemblance,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the chin, right? Look at that
Mm-hmm.
chin. You see it here. She was an actress. And not only she used her for the Queen of Wands, but she also used her for the Nine of Pentacles. This is the same character. That's the same model. And if you see, very similar too in terms of the chin. And she used her as a model for a lot of other different artwork that she created, Pamela Coleman Smith. This is an image of a painting which was later used for, I think it's called the Astounding Lenormand. This is one of her original paintings.
Oh no, I like
And
that.
if you see, there's a lot of there's a lot of similarities between this image and
Mm-hmm.
the Nine of Pentacles. It's
Yeah.
basically the same thing, except in this case, she's reading a letter.
Very cool.
Yeah. So her daughter Edith Craig was used as a model for other cards, and one of them is the Magician. This is her daughter as a child, and if you see the eyes
Oh my
and the
goodness.
face,
Yes. Oh, most definitely.
yeah. So they were very good friends. They lived in England, and when Pamela Coleman Smith was sketching the image for the Queen of Wands, she used her as a model, and she incorporated a lot of other elements. The sunflower wasn't part of the original plan. She added the sunflower. Now, the most mysterious and intriguing is the cat. Originally, the
Mm-hmm.
plan was to put a leopard, but she used as a model Edith Craig's cat, and this was based on a real cat, and the cat's
Oh,
name is Snuffles.
I love
And
it.
this is
There's
Snuffles.
snuffles. Oh my god. Oh,
This
just like
is
my
this
Mozzie.
cat right there,
Oh.
Snuffles. And Pamela Coleman Smith painted Snuffles in a lot of different images.
goodness.
But Snuffles was immortalized forever through Pamela Coleman
Uh,
Smith's uh, incorporating
wow.
him as the as an element. Now, the cat, a lot of people has assigned different meanings to it. You know, like the
Hmm.
dark side of Venus, uh,
Hmm.
the queen's intuition, divinity. It really depends on the person who's reading it. But in reality, the reason the cat was here was to, instead of using the leopard, incorporate Snuffles in it. She made her own interpretation too, because the instruction or the description from the Golden Dawn described the Queen of Wands as having her hands resting on the throne and at the same time touching the leopard and grabbing the wand, which didn't make sense. I mean, there's no way you can do both things at the same time. So she just created it in her own way, you know. And we've seen this interpretation, especially the sunflowers and the cat, in other modern decks. And I brought you some examples of modern decks in which we can see both the cat and the sunflower, or one or the other. This is one of the most recent decks that I got, and I love this deck. It's called Influence of the Angels Tarot. And here we can see the Queen of Wands
Love the artwork.
with the sunflower clearly visible
Hmm.
right there, and the cat.
The kitty.
Yeah. Another example.
I
Let's
know,
see.
right?
This one's
Yeah.
called the International Icon Tarot. And I love it because it uses this type of symbology, which we see in signs of airports and in public
Yeah.
places. And I like it because you don't see really like skin tone or, you know, specific uh, physical characteristics. You know, we just see the figure. And here we have
That
the
is
cat,
cool. I love that, Ramon.
right? There is Snuffles.
So simplistic. I
There's the
love simplicity.
sunflower.
Hmm.
Yeah. Another deck. This one's called the Vinder deck, and this is created by Leah Panthea. She's from Iceland. This is the first edition. This one's out of print,
Ooh.
but here it's watercolor images. So
Oh,
here we
wow.
have the
The lion.
sunflower. Instead of a cat, there's a lion. But
Hmm.
you know, we see Snuffles' personality through
Maybe,
there, right?
yeah, I was going to say how Snuffles saw himself. Or herself. Meow.
Yeah. Um, a last example. So I have this deck too, which
You're
I
fine.
bought maybe 2 years ago. It's called
Right?
Arcana Tarot Playing Cards. So this is a combination. These are playing cards that have the major arcana incorporated to them. And I think it's made by a company. It was made by a
Ooh.
company called Dead and Paper. And here we see the Queen of Wands. It's black and white, but we see the Queen of Wands
Oh,
with
I
the
like her.
sunflower right there.
And the kitty's in
And
her lap.
yeah,
Your Snuffles in her lap. Just
there's
like mine like to
Snuffles.
sit on my lap when I do my show sometimes. I love it.
Yeah.
And Dancing Soul Sister, you're right, Ramon. Your knowledge is fascinating. He's like a walking Was it the Britannica Encyclopedia of Tarot? I mean,
No,
wow. Yeah.
not really. No, no, no. Thank you, but no, I appreciate it, but
Uh,
no. This is something that anybody could learn, you know.
yeah,
And
but it's your passion.
the reason I do a little bit more research in it is because you get to appreciate it differently. You know, it's like when you
Hmm.
go to a museum and you see a painting of a vase and a flower, people say, ah, you know, that's boring. But when you understand the context, when these
Hmm.
artworks were created, you know, the styles that were new at the time, what was happening in the world, you
Yes.
place it in a different way that you
Okay.
appreciate it much
Hmm.
more, you know. And that's the case with, you know, these divination systems and cards, you know, in general.
I experienced that when I was working at the Albright Knox Art Gallery when I was going to college. A lot of people would come in and go, "Pfft." that's not art, this and that. But then I would hear later on is, because they would have docent tours, and the docents would go and explain the background, the history, where the artist was living, what was like the social, economic, or political, what it was that they were trying to express. And then a lot of times, they would be like, oh, I kind of get it now, so some still have, but even
Mm-hmm.
me, I learned as well, from the docents. So, like Ramon just said, when you start to explore a little bit, dig a little deeper, and you understand the symbols and where they are coming from and context to that time, it makes it, it makes it more, what's the word, more tangible, more palpable,
Mm-hmm.
easier to kind of like, okay, I can start connecting the dots, and then when you go into the modern decks, you can see where that infiltrates in place, in later. But while you were sharing, we were getting comments for you, so I was highlighting them and share and saving them. And Allison said, great descriptions, Ramon. For me, when I was learning, it was helpful to assign a person in my own life to each court card. For me,
Mm-hmm.
it made learning much easier. Jackie said, just looking at my ultimate guide to the Rider Waite Tarot book, it's associated with the 2, 3, and 4 of Wands, and also the Tower card. Makes a lot of sense. Now, that's interesting to me, the Queen of Wands being associated with the Tower.
Hmm.
Um,
Interesting.
that's interesting. Tony said, this makes sense. Richie at Lawn Man did a chat about Pamela's inspiration and art coming from the theater, seeing floors and backdrops. And then she continued on, all the cards look like backdrops with the floor colors representing theater floors. So very cool. Learning something
That's
new
true.
every day.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And
And
like for
Ramon
example,
tells this.
I just
Oh,
I just
sorry.
pulled this one, the Four of Pentacles, and you see he looks like he's on a stage,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's very common with a lot of the cards throughout the RWS. Not all of them, but a lot do. Yeah.
So very, very cool. And Flowing said, Ramon tells the story of Lady Lenormand. It's so interesting. Yes. Um, yeah, shared Lenormand when we did our Lenormand haikus a couple of weeks ago. That was fun.
That
And
was
I
fun.
mean, it just shows the amount of knowledge, and dedication, that Ramon puts in with his practice. Just making sure I didn't miss any other comments. So, were you done sharing your decks? I always like my guests to go
Um,
first.
kind of. I just want to like show two examples of decks before the RWS, and we
Okay.
have Eteya, which I love. It's this deck. The Eteya system is a really interesting one, and it predates RWS. And here we see an example of the Queen of Wands or the Queen of Batons. There's no sunflowers. There's
No
no
kitty.
cat, no kitty, no leopard. It was literally just a queen with a wand. And this one, the Tarot de Vivier, which is a French Marseille. I only have like one or two Marseilles. I'm not a fan of Marseilles, but I love the artwork and the vintage look of this one. This is from 1650. Same case. We see a queen with her wand. So it was just that. But then after RWS, it started to, the cat got immortalized, and the sunflower and meanings assigned to it.
Hmm.
There's this other one which I love. It's called the Medieval Europe Tarot. It's out of print too, and this is an amazing deck because it has 86 cards and
Oh wow.
incorporates all 78 cards of the tarot and astrology. And the depiction of this one is very interesting. So it's a full scene, and there's a queen with a person bringing him something, but the cat is on full action right there, eating a mouse.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and in different decks we still see the cat, but in different representations. I'll let you talk and then I'll continue.
Um, well, first of all, Chris said I've been reading a lot with Marseille lately. I'm loving it. And Jackie says,
Hmm.
did y'all see the Rider Marseille Tarot? It's a cross between the two. It's not a pip deck. Looks fab. Um, I have
Yes, there's a couple of
not.
them actually. There's a couple of them. I have a Japanese version. Um, this one, the Kishebo, and here we have the Queen of Wands. But all 78 cards are illustrated. And there's one that I got recently. Let me pull it. This one is called the Rider Marseille Tarot Deck. And same thing, all 78 cards are illustrated. They
Yeah,
follow the RWS designs, but with that style of woodblock from Marseille. Beautiful.
I love wood block carvings. They're beautiful.
Me too.
I mean, the time it takes to go and to be able to carve, because I had to take printmaking in college for my degree, and just working on, the wood and then trying to do the lino. I mean, it's just, it takes skill and dedication to be able to do that work.
Hmm.
And Jackie says that's the one, Ramon, that,
Okay.
yeah, that she's seen. So,
The last one, the second one,
yeah, the one
this
you're
one's
talking about with the mixing the two together when she mentioned,
okay.
whoop,
Okay. Because, yeah, there's several ones. And this one's made by an artist called Alejandro Rozan. I think he's Cuban, but
mm-hmm.
beautiful deck.
Yep, Chris just put that in the chat. Yeah, Alejandro has done an amazing job. And she says, yes, the second one. So I haven't really, I've seen a few here and there of the Marseille. I haven't really been drawn to it. I have a very specific style and taste in art. I can appreciate looking at other different forms of artists and their interpretations. But for me, like a lot of people, we all resonate differently with different genres and time periods and styles of art. That's one of the things I miss about college is taking my art history classes, sitting in the dark and looking at all the different types of art. And Chris also said I have the Marseille weight, which is nice too. So again, for me, the Tina Gone book, her Queen of Wands, and it's a departure from. There's no sunflowers. She does use lilies, what appears to be lilies. I do love the simplicity of the design of. There's no kitty as well. I was kind of like, oh, Tina left out the kitty. But I just love the color association that she did for the wands, the simplicity of the design. It's simple but not over complex. So this is, and her book for me is just a, unbelievable information. She talks about the cards having a conscious, super conscious um, aspect. She goes through the elements. She just breaks down everything really beautifully. So Gerald and I did a deck casual earlier this year. So everyone wants to see more of this. Um, please check that out. Um, and for me, let's see, where do I want to start? I think I'll start with this one here because the Star Tarot by Kathy. Let me see my glasses here. McClelland. She based hers on the Hermetic Dawn as well, and her card has the lion and there's the leopard, jaguar, and there's the sunflowers all around her. But she also
Mm.
included lilies. And what's beautiful, what I love is to me it taps into like my Irish roots, my Celtic roots. There's the beautiful Bridget's cross right there on her in her sunflower and her little shield. So for me, this is just a beautiful radiant card. I just love this one. I wanted to share it, and here what I love that she wrote for the Queen of Wands is fear has no power over her. So she's creative, she's supportive, she's nurturing in the aspect of you focusing and pushing you to your own potential. But I love the fact that she there's no fear. So for me, she's almost kind of like the feminine, Archangel Michael. No fear, protection, that fire that goes around you. And let me see. So in this book here, it breaks down to the sun crown, the Bridget's cross, the flower mandala. It's just a really wonderful book. And two, in this one, they associate her with the sacred days of Imbolc, slash Candlemas for the pagan celebration of the year. She's considered a full moon, and her shield is the mandala. And the keywords is the mother of creation. She's the creative life force. So, love that card. Wanted to share that. So let me set that aside because sometimes I was telling Ramon backstage, it's like trying to pick, choose your favorite kid out of everybody. Um, and just a couple examples of the Arcanum and the Thelema, the Queen of Wands, just the richness of color in the cards, the artwork, the photography, this beautiful satin, deep, rich red. Those were just a couple. There's her holding the sunflower. They didn't put the cat in that one, but absolutely love those. Wanted to share that artistically. I do have the Mystical Moon Tarot and the Queen of Wands. It's basically a pip deck, and there's the cat to me, the leopard, the panther. There's that beautiful, without the human representation. There's the animal front and center, and what I love that she shared on here is being unafraid to speak up, be willing to defend others. So this is also a card about not having the fear, tapping into your potential, being self-reliant. And it says here you're in charge of things and putting your life in order. So she's one that kind of likes gets the fire lit under your ass to be not to be crass, but she's the one that gets you motivated, shows you your potential, wants you to focus on your potential. She wants you to shine. And with shining brings me to one of my favorites, is the Tarot de Nuit. And even though they don't use typically through the deck, the suits, the Queen of Wands, I mean, in all her splendor. There are some sunflowers in the background. Again, there's these beautiful, like golden lilies. I know it's a little hard to see, but there's also roses around her. But I know Black Kitty, but still, she's just that very empowering, standing in your power, not being afraid of your own power, not being afraid of creativity, of not being because especially with women, being so, you're not supposed to be, in the early days, we're not supposed to be sexual. We're not supposed to openly talk about our sexuality. I can see this very well being a Madonna card. Ramon, what do you think? Just being out there expressing yourself,
Yes.
express yourself.
Yeah, there's a there's a
She's
that reminds me there's a scene from the video Fever that she has her arms stretched with sort of like a cape, beautiful. And it
yes,
kind of like reminds me of that,
yeah, the sunflower,
right?
and then she's all. I just that was a fabulous video. That didn't get enough airplay. I highly
Yeah.
recommend that video of hers. And the word that's highlighting here is charisma. And what's really cool about the Tarot de Nuit is that the writer wrote the information about the cards in their perspective as if this is the card actually talking to you. So she goes, May the sunflowers dance. I bring light to this dark world. I make flowers grow and make people dance. She goes, I know that you have many ideas, many dreams. I want your ambition to. Hold on a second. You probably hear this. Sorry about that. I live near an airport and a military base. Um, and so she wants you to make your dreams real. Just don't imagine them, make them happen. She is that catalyst. She is the one that gives you the courage. And I love how they write it from her saying that to you. I want your ambition to shine. I want your power to show. So I love how that card speak they write to you so that the card is actually speaking to you. She is speaking to you. And the other I have two more that I just want to share. I'm still learning this new deck. It's called the Hush Tarot. This is one of those Ginger and Allison made me do it kind of biased, but I absolutely love the cards. and this is very non-traditional RWS. I'll just let everybody know right now. Um, the artwork is absolutely beautiful. It's created by the Jeremy Hush. He's the writer and the artist. And with her, again, it's all about positivity, being determined. Um, and the arrow on her shoulder points out your direction. The crow is the symbol of mystery. So instead of a black cat, we have a black crow in the card. But again, what I love is you are radiant in the dark of the world. So another beautiful aspect to add to a reading, um, a message to come through with that. I have one more, Ramon, and I'll hand it right back over to you. And then I'll check out chat because I see people popping in. Hello, Karen. And now this deck here is an indie deck that I got a few years back on Etsy. It's called Stardust Tarot, and it's a beautiful deck. It's again kind of a personal interpretation of the tarot. I don't necessarily, resonate, but it's still the artwork and the creation is beautiful. And this is the Queen of Wands. In this deck, she uses a lot of Greek, Egyptian antiquity, Christian iconography, um, you know, goddess with the moons and the crescents. It's just a very beautiful. The imagery is just absolutely gorgeous.
It's
So
beautiful.
once you have a very, have a good knowledge from grasp of tarot, then I would recommend this deck, but not to start out. And again, confidence, courage, and strength. And this card, yeah, this symbolizes the female spirit and all her divine attributes. And I love that they included this vase on her shoulder because of being fire and water. There's the vase, the water. So to me, that is one of my favorite cards with her, and that's what I have. And I'm going to take myself down here, making sure I didn't miss any. Let's see. That's the one, Ramon. Okay, I have that. Hello, Karen Johnson. Welcome. Heather, this was one of my first decks. Love to see it. Oh, I just went through a whole bunch of them, so not sure which one you're referring to. Let's see. Back. Okay, so yes, everybody, thank you for joining Ramon and I again today. We appreciate your support. And so you said there was something else you wanted to share, so I'm going to put you right back
Yeah,
over.
yeah. So I want to go back to some of the specific symbology. Um, like I mentioned, people have assigned different meanings to different elements in the card, even though that's not what Arthur Wade intended, right? So at the end, it really comes down to interpretation. I'm gonna read what Arthur Wade literally wrote as the guidebook on the pictorial key of tarot when he published the deck. And for the Queen of Wands, it says the wands throughout the suit are always in leaf, as if the suit as it is the suit of life and animation, emotionally and otherwise. The queen's personality corresponds to that of the king, but more magnetic. Divinatory meanings: a dark woman, countrywoman, friendly, chaste, loving, honorable. If the card beside her signifies a man, she is well disposed towards him. If a woman, she is interested in the querent. Also, love of money or certain success in business. Reversed, good, economical, obliging, serviceable. Signifies also, but in certain positions and in the neighborhood of other cards tending in such directions: opposition, jealousy, and even deceit and infidelity. And it's totally different to how we see the Queen of
Hmm.
Wands nowadays, right? Like
Different
it
time
if
period. Hmm.
yes, if I read that paragraph without knowing what it was, I would have never associated it with the Queen of Wands, right?
Hmm.
So it's interesting how our the meaning of a lot of cards, our perception of characters has changed uh, as time has progressed, right? As we see humanity and society under a different light. Like I mentioned before, we don't talk anymore about necessarily about genders in cards, right? We talk about energies. A man can embody the energy of a queen.
Mm-hmm.
So a woman of a king, or both, or vice versa, right? In the case of the cat, going back to Snuffles, some of the associations with the cat specifically, it could represent independence and self-assurance,
Mm-hmm.
because cats are known for their independent nature
Yeah.
and self-sufficiency, right? The
Yep.
cat on the Queen of Wands can symbolize these traits, reflecting the queen's confident and self-assured demeanor. It can also signify mystery and intuition, because cats are often associated with mystery and the unseen. So they hint
Mm-hmm.
on the connection of the intuition and the ability to navigate the unknown. And this kind of complements the Queen of Wands' intuitive and perceptive qualities, right? It can also signify protection and guardianship, because in some tradition, cats are considered protectors against negative energies and
Mm-hmm.
bringers of good luck. So the cat in this card can symbolize the protective nature of the Queen of Wands and her ability to ward off negativity. It can also represent grace and agility, because cats are graceful and agile hunters, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this showcased the dynamic and resourceful nature of the Queen of Wands, but also companionship, because the cat can also be seen as a companion. So it
Mm-hmm.
highlights the queen's ability to form strong and supportive relationships, and emphasizes on the importance of her in connecting with other energies. So it kind of like adds depth to the character of the Queen of Wands. Yeah, beautiful. Now, other elements that a lot of people are not aware of is that the Queen of Wands here, she has a brooch with a fox. You really have to look like really closely. Right there, you see the
Oh yeah,
fox?
I've never noticed that before.
Yeah. So the fox, it's in this case, it can symbolize, you know, her ability, her determination, her cleverness, her resourcefulness. Um, it's being cunning. So those are attributes that can be added to the representation of the Queen of Wands. Other symbols, we see the lion, of course, and here represents royalty. Like we mentioned, the sunflower is that energy. Yeah, so it comes down really to your personal interpretation of the card in general, or each one of the symbologies, because like I just read, that wasn't, none of those meanings were intended for this card. And for a lot
Mm-hmm.
of the cards in the RWS, over time we've assigned these meanings. And if for you a black cat is the dark side of Venus, which a lot of people have said, which I don't understand,
Never
because
heard of that. Yeah.
yeah, the Queen of Wands is more associated with the planet Jupiter.
Mm-hmm. And
That's
Leo.
your
Mm-hmm.
interpretation. Yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned Madonna, because I always seen this card as a Leo card. I don't know. There's so much Leo energy, and I
Yep.
admire Leo women so much. Madonna, my mother,
Star
other
Tarot has
other.
it down as Leo. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my mom is a Leo too, and
So was my mom.
really,
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh,
I
she was a
know
handful.
a lot of other Leo women, and all of them, the ones that I met in my life, they're very strong women. They're very, they work for what they want, and they're great achievers and strong, but also like that personality, that combination of love, emotion, intuition, femininity with the fire element.
Yeah.
You know, it's a beautiful
Absolutely.
card, and I'm
It
very
is.
happy that it started. That we're doing. We started this series, and I got
With the
to talk
queen.
about
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yes.
Now the Queen of Wands doesn't have. You don't have to see a woman with a cat.
Mm-hmm.
It's, and I brought some examples. I have this deck. It's called the minimalistic deck. It's out of print. It's from Ukraine, and this is the deck, and this
Very
is
simple. The tarot.
very simple.
Oh
This
my.
is the Queen of Wands,
Looks like a sword. Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Other ones, and this is a deck that I love a lot, and I've I've talked about it many times before. It's called The Darkness Piercer by Philippe Rocher. Look at that cover.
Love that
And
purple.
yeah, this is the Queen of Wands.
Oh, wait a minute. Whoa.
Yeah, we see the fiery energy right there.
So there's no actual female, like,
No, none of the cards
physical.
have depiction of people. It's
Gotcha.
just like these abstract
Very cool.
geometrical shapes that have they're very powerful, and they're timeless too because you really can't place this in the future, in the past. It's atemporal. I love this deck. It's great quality too. I have. Let me see what else I can show you. This one, the serpent and the peacock. A lot of people know this one. This is the first version of it. Here we don't have a cat, but we have a little dragon. You know,
Aw.
highlighting
Little
her
griffin.
status,
Yeah.
yeah, of as a fire sign. Beautiful lady.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting deck. What else? The Salvador Dali Tarot.
Oh boy, here we go. Pulling out the dolly.
Yeah, and this is actually the inner box because the packaging is huge. It's beautiful. It's made by Taschen, and
Mm-hmm.
here we
They
have.
make great art books.
They do,
Mm-hmm.
and this deck is
Convinced.
beautiful. And here we have
Oh,
Marie Antoinette, right?
and that's the Queen of Wands. Interesting.
Yeah,
No
Queen of
flaming.
Wands. Yeah,
Now is that a fox or a dog down there with her? I'm just curious.
looks like it's a dog. It's got to be a dog.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a dog here. No royalty. They had like
Very
their
cool.
little dogs.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. It's you know that Salvador Dali was commissioned to make a tarot deck for a James Bond movie,
No, I
and he
did.
did. Yeah, he did the deck in which, and this is the deck. You can find of course, it is a facsimile, but he wanted to charge at the time. I think it's when in the '60s, $7 million, which was like outrageous. Yeah,
Yeah, that was
yeah,
enough.
and they ended up going with another artist. And I like the majors of that other deck. You can find it on eBay. It's called the James Bond 007 Tarot deck. The majors are beautiful. The minors are like meh, but
Yeah.
he ended up after he died, his estate published it, and it's available. There's some versions of it hard to find, but you can still find it through Taschen.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. So with the Queen of Wands, like I said, it doesn't have to be necessarily a woman, but there's like infinite representation. This is the Cyber Tarot.
Oh, I think
Did
you wrote. Yes,
I
you did.
froze? Did
Mm-hmm.
I freeze?
Yes.
All right. Let me reset. You can keep talking,
Okay.
and I'll be back.
Alrighty. And yes, Marcy, we actually did discuss the casting with Snuffles. Very cool. So while Ramon is rebooting, I'm going to go ahead and share a couple of others that I had forgotten to mention. And this was it earlier this month. Shan treated me to a beautiful new deck called The Unfolding Path, which is so beautifully inclusive. This is like really bringing the tarot to the modern age. And I love this beautiful Queen of Wands. And I absolutely adore the little baby kitten on her lap playing wanting to play with the wand and her sunflowers or pay attention to me. So this is just a beautiful, fabulous deck. Similar in ways to the oh, what's that one by Chris Ian? The star. Oh, the one that Light Seers tarot, and a lot of this artwork just really resonates with me. It's just beautifully done. I love the design, but that's for a divine design. But that was another example that I wanted to share. And while we're waiting for Ramon, a couple, because it's like trying to pick your favorite kid. And of course, the Queen of Fire from the Colette Baron Reed's Good Tarot. She looks very elvish to me. I love the fact that, she's holding the candle and it's right near her solar plexus, your place of power, your place for, and right below is your creativity, your sacral chakra. And then it connects to the heart. So connecting your creativity with your power to your heart, and exuding that beautiful sense um, what's the word, of, I don't say regalty, but just of, and not self importance, because this could be, like the reversed energy of the Queen of Wands that I've come to find, like the egotism and everything. But for here, this is just her being very confident in herself and her creativity and in who she is. It's like that self worth. And with the Tina book, with the upright, and there's Ramon. There, she has several sections for each card, and there's an interpretation, a reflection, and an action. And she goes basically with the interpretation of the Queen of Wands. And then when you go into the reflection, she starts asking you questions that you can use as prompts and journals about, um, how can you express who you are without fear, guilt, and shame. So a lot of beautiful journaling prompts for her cards, and the actions that you can take, not censoring yourself, and making sure that you behave authentically. And I don't think I saw that in any other decks, but Tina addresses the Queen of Wands is very authentic. She is comfortable in her own skin, in her body, in what she holds true to herself, her beliefs. And Ramon, I was showing this when you disappeared. I love this. Is from the Unfolding Path Tarot. This is the Queen of Wands, and this is how the kitten is portrayed, the black cat, the little kitten
Ah,
playing on her lap. It's a beautiful deck. It's extremely inclusive. I really recommend this deck for the
beautiful.
modern times for reading. And so, Queen of Wands, celebrate your quirks, celebrate what makes you you, let your freak, basically kind of like let your freak flag fly, kind of card. And again, connecting the charisma, the social butterfly. That was definitely my mom. She was a Leo. And so, that could be very fickle. She could turn on a dime, but very personable, had that charisma, was a waitress, could talk to anybody. And but she also wants you to not to be afraid of exploring your shadow side. The Queen of Wands burns bright, and when you have that much light on you, it makes your shadow even deeper and darker. But she doesn't want you to be afraid of exploring them. It's not to be afraid of showing people who you truly are. This could go to, like Ramon was saying, the black side of Venus, which I haven't heard. I'll have to research that. But going into your shadow aspects, finding the things that you may find traumatic or may not be appetizing to people, and not necessarily holding those true pieces of yourself, those true essences of who you are from others. Um, and so, yeah, and jealousy too. On this book here, the reverse, jealous, fickle, spiteful. Yeah, that could be my mom. When you got on her bad side, but yes, just very extroverted, warm, supportive, creative. So, um, that is what I have for the rest of the show. I'm just gonna. Was there something else that you were going to start showing, Ramon? I think you had a card
Yeah, I have a
that you were.
couple more representations of the Queen of Wands. This
Alrighty.
one, yeah, this one is from the Retro Poster Tarot. I love this deck, and I've
I've
used it
seen that.
before. All the cards are they 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 are they simulate posters of movies. Now that's the Eight of Cups, the Queen of Cups,
That's cool. I like that
right?
one.
And in this case, the Queen of Wands, she looks so powerful. It's this lady here.
Oh
Look at
yeah,
that
Foxy. That reminds me of
fiery,
Foxy Brown.
right?
Yep.
And the cool thing about look at the back, it's beautiful,
Oh, I love those
and
colors.
it has the keywords. You know, you had it's sort of like the title and the credits. It's beautifully done, and the keywords associated here are confidence, independence, strength, courage, vitality, and determination. She looks like very badass, right? Like, don't
Hmm.
mess with me.
Was it Pam Grier back in the 70s? That was the one who played Foxy Brown or some of the really badass, female black
Mm-hmm.
action heroes
Yes.
and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
characters. Hmm.
Yeah. I
And I love the
have.
backs of those two, Ramon. They remind me of the oh, I just had that art movement, Art Deco. It goes
Mm-hmm.
with the but very Art Deco. Very, I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. It reminds me of like some decoration patterns from the
Frank Lloyd Wright used
70s.
a lot of those
That
patterns.
too. Yeah.
In his designs, in his homes and stuff, and his furniture. Frank Lloyd
Yeah.
Wright.
Beautiful deck. I have this one from Terra Volatile.
Did a what? Did a
Terra
what?
Volatile. People pronounce it as Terra Volatile, but it's Latin. So it's volatile earth.
I just have
Terra.
these words just roll off Ramon's tongue.
Terra. Terra. Terra Volatile. And here we have the the Queen of Wands.
Oh, and I like her. Oh,
She's
yes.
exquisite, right? In
Oh,
all
you
her
have to send me a
power.
picture of that. Oh, I
Yeah,
love
her
her.
femininity. We have there the
The jaguar.
sunflowers.
Mm-hmm.
There's a jaguar right there, but the sunflowers too.
Damn.
There she is in all her power and beauty and exquisiteness, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love the headpiece.
Me too.
And yeah, I think that's all I have. I have this one too, the Quantum Tarot, Chris Butler.
Mm-hmm.
And here we have the Queen
I
of
have his
Wands.
Lenormand.
Yeah, this one's interesting because the backdrop seems to be, I don't know, it doesn't look like the moon because it doesn't have the typical markings of the moon, but it's very,
Oh, I like that, Chris. Oh, I got
right?
he's Chris. He's in the
Very,
chat, but yeah.
yeah, very feminine, beautiful.
I don't
Yeah,
need any
so,
more decks, Ramon.
oh my God. And that's just like a little
Woo.
fraction of the ones that I have that, you can see like a contrast on the artistic depiction.
Mhm.
But the Queen of Wands is an energy. Anything, anybody can embody it.
Yes.
You see it represented differently in different decks. And, the meaning, the symbology really comes down to what resonates with you. Because
Hmm.
what can mean a black cat to you doesn't mean the same to me. You
Hmm.
know, some people, like I mentioned, associated with the dark side of Moon, the dark side of Venus. I personally see it as a companion. It's sort of like enhancing the imagery of the Queen of Wands. I never like to associate animals with negative things. That's something I'm
Mm-mm.
always against. With,
Well, with
with
me with
you know,
snakes, I'm working on that.
yeah,
I mean, I
like,
understand the power and the medicine,
hmm
but for me, it must have been a severe past life, experience because it's just something that in this life I cannot embrace. I mean,
hmm
talk about body going into fight or flight mode, when you
hmm
see one. But I had a little bit of an different element I just wanted to share before we go. And we're at 2:11. We have time for a collective if you like to do a collective. Um, but I did bring some
yes,
crystals with me.
right.
People know I love my crystals. And so when I was getting ready, I said, well, we're talking about the Queen of Wands. She's the fire. So I brought one of my new pieces from last year. I have my
Mm,
fire quartz. So this is
beautiful.
a beautiful example of fire quartz. It's a palm stone. Um, the video really doesn't do it justice, but of course, the abstract shapes and the colors. Absolutely love the energy behind this. And of course, the carnelian, which resonates with our sacral chakra, which is part of the fire sign. Um, and this is a beautiful example. I didn't think carnelian had white in it or other colors, but
Yeah.
I just love this because it almost looks like an ancient language, carved or etched into the carnelian. And just an absolutely beautiful example of carnelian, which is could be a wand crystal, wand stone. And my last one, my fire opal. I love my opals. And this one here is a very thin piece of fire opal. So kind of the same color that goes with Ramon's backdrop. So there we go.
Right.
So let me set those aside and let us bring back here. So the Queen of Wands. What I was going to do was shuffle. This is what I figured. What message does the Queen of Wands want to give us today as we end the show. And what I'm going to do is, for me, I'm going to shuffle my deck. I'm going to use the Tina Gone um, deck that I have, and I'm going to find her in the deck and find out what the cards are flanking her, and see what the messages are. You know, for the Queen of Wands. So um, that sound good with Ramon? What
Yeah, it's
message does the
definitely.
Queen of Wands? And then
Hmm.
you pull and shuffle how. But I want to play with her this way and see what I get with her. So, and
So
again, everybody, we just want to thank really quick again everyone who has joined us. Ramon and I appreciate your support. Be sure check out his channel. All his links to Instagram, to Amazon, everything is in the description below. And we appreciate your support again.
definitely. So what I did was I pulled two Queen of Wands from different decks. Of course, I have to pull the RWS because
Okay.
this is this is to me like my favorite one, and a card from Etea, the Queen of Wands, and in this case, it's virtue. And this is an invitation for anything that you do in your life. Please do it with virtue. Always add honesty, courage, compassion, generosity, and apply these in your life to anything you do and to anyone around you. And the invitation from the Queen of Wands from the RWS, this is always an invitation to be strong, to nurture, to be kind, to be courage, and act with confidence, love, and compassion. That's what I have for all of you.
Oh,
Apply
beautiful.
those
Thank you.
virtues, that positivity, that strength that we all have. There's a Queen of Wands in all of us.
Hmm.
Just project that in your life into everything and everyone around you.
Beautiful. And I did something a little different. That was a great idea. I'll have to remember that for the next time. And hello, Sherry H. Well, I still say Sherry H. I'm so used to that. Sherry Voices from the
Sherry.
Swamp has popped in, join us, and so has
Oh,
CJ.
Sherry. I'm going to be
Hello.
with her on Friday. Friday at
Oh,
6.
you're going to be with Sherry,
At
and then you're
6
going
and
to be
then with
later
you
on
at
with
8.
Elson and I at 8.
Yes, at
Yes.
8.
So I used the Tina Gone, and I found the cards that flanked her. And you remember that Queen of Wands also embodies the element of water. That's her dignitary, as we have learned
Hmm.
today, is the water. And so the fire and the water mix. And her message again of standing in your power. You have control of your future, of yourself. You have that creative potential within you. You have that personal power, and not to fear. And the cards that were flanking her are cups about emotions. So this is perfect. It's the water element. So Five of Cups, reminding you anything in the past that has caused you sadness or grief, you feel like was a failure or a heartbreak or a letdown emotionally. This could very well too be a part of the shadow work that needs to be done that she can create for you, not to be afraid of your shadow. And so anything in the past that has caused grief or sadness, you have the power to move forward into that. And with that power, you will walk away. The Eight of Cups, starting something new, moving forward, sitting with your emotions, acknowledging them, knowing that we're human, we're spiritual beings having that human experience, and all of our emotions are valid. And so
Hmm.
when we get into really deeply into those emotions, we can sit with them for a while, but then she's like, okay, it's time to move on, turn on that fire. you know what's the favorite saying that people are they say nowadays is, suck it. I don't like the word suck it up, buttercup, but it's just like pulling up them bait pants on, and just really connecting with your inner power, your inner strength, your inner meow. Let that roar, whether it's a little kitten or a big lion. Let that inner roar out. And at the bottom,
With your inner snuffles, right?
let your inner snuffles out. I mean, you might sniffle when you cry, but just snuff that out, embrace, hug that little Snuffles, and yeah, and moving forward. So, Ramon, thank you. This was awesome.
Yes, thank you for having me, and
Learned so much.
I'm looking forward to see the next chapters as you explore the other queens with other guests.
Yep.
And
I know Jonathan Daly is going to be joining me for likely the Pentacles, the Queen of Pentacles. Um, I have Jackie's Crystal Moon, who's going to do the Queen of Swords with me, and I'm
nice.
working on a special guest for the Queen of Hearts, the Queen of My Heart, when she's feeling well enough to be able to join. So a little hint there. And people coming in, hello, Patsy's Tarot Musings. Thank you for being here. Karina, hello, good to see you. And yes, you're going to have a blast. Ramon is fabulous. He's a great guest. He's so insightful. I
Thank you.
appreciate you sharing your wisdom, your passion with me and everybody on my channel. And I will see everybody with Ramon on Friday night with Allison and they're going to be discussing the Santa Muerte. Did I
Hmm.
pronounce that properly?
La
The Santa
Santa
Muerte.
Muerte.
The
La
Santa
Santa
Muerte.
Muerte. I'm looking forward
Muerte.
to it. Yeah,
And
I love that character. And she's
yes,
very misunderstood. There's a lot of like misrepresentations, misinterpretations of her.
yes.
And, it's just an opportunity to talk about what she is, what she's not, how she's not other characters like the Grim Reaper and some other ones.
Hmm.
She's her own thing, and go through some decks.
So looking
Hmm.
forward to that totally. So very excited for the rest of this week. Everybody, hope you're having a great week, and we will see you.
Before
Go ahead.
before I leave, I just wanted to say, long live Snuffles.
Yes, long live Snuffle rocks. Awesome.
Thank you, everyone.
Channel your inner Snuffle. There we go.
Yes.
All right, everybody. Have a great rest of your
Blessings
day.
to all.
Thank you again, Ramon.